Hello, hello, good evening. You are not alone, and neither am I because you're here joining me. Happy new moon, Scorpion season. I don't know very much about astrology. I just know a lot of times with astrology, it confirms what I channel, what I receive as messages. And a big theme over the course of the past few days has been return to your roots. Go within and into me I see, intuit, what is your truth? Who were you before all the programming, all the indoctrination? Who is your true heart and your soul? Can you connect to that within you? Do you really remember your true essence? Or are you still living out a role, a script, a story that you were told you needed to live, you needed to get by in order to be liked, to be a part of a group? See, we don't need to subscribe to other people's beliefs about us. We don't need to appease or play someone else's character in their life. We are the main attraction in our lives. We are the star of our lives. As Bob Proctor would say, you are the star of your life. But the question is, are you living your life as the star? Or are there more important characters in your life? So give me a moment. I want to turn this light off. It's kind of bright. I was trying to get good lighting. Just go with natural lighting. It's the best way to do it. So, I personally have been going through my own major life transformation this past year, reflecting upon, how much has changed and what I've lived over the course of my life and where I've been and where I expected myself to be. And I'm really solid in knowing myself. I'm really good at knowing who I am. My life is very simple in a lot of ways. It's rather relaxed. I have flexibility. I have many luxuries, in my opinion. It's a luxury to not have an excess of responsibility, that I don't have children and I actually don't have a partner, which sometimes can be a plus and a minus. When you're single and it's just you and your dog, it's really like, it's just us. So he watches over me, but I'm taking care of him, and it's a beautiful little symbiotic relationship. But at the same time, yes, when you have a partner, sometimes it's nice to have someone to share certain roles and responsibilities. And sometimes when you are in a relationship, you have to consider how you're meant to be a part of a whole, contributing and receiving, like that equal ebb and flow, that give and take. And I miss that too. I mean, I'm human. And so I titled this, it's about human connection. Who's missing real, authentic human connection? Because right now, more than ever, I think that is the major theme. I was listening to Leo King earlier today, and I really appreciate because he always seems to bring the astrology into what I'm already sensing for the collective. I get the pulse, I get the intuitive hit. I get it. I've been feeling lonely and my own personal loss of support, community, people I can truly turn to and speak to. And I only have a few people I can turn to and share, and I can trust. And I can tell you from me, if I trust you enough to share my life with you, then I care about you, because I don't just share my life with anybody. So that in itself is sacred. And as a friend, if someone shares something with me, and some of us would say, I have it under lock and key in my heart, that's between us. Like, to me, that's vulnerability. And it takes a lot of courage for someone to share of themselves, whatever it is they share. And so the whole, however a person expresses themselves, is a sacred act in itself. Whether you're the listener or the receiver, the listener and the receiver, or you're the speaker and the giver. Because that is what life is about. It's a give and take. It's about receptivity. It's about, I'm here for you, you're here for me. That's true connection, heart to heart, not egos and personalities. Because we got a lot of personality, identity, politics going on right now. People are misidentifying themselves in these other areas that aren't who they are. They're hiding behind masks and identities, personalities, coping mechanisms, strategies, life survival versus thrival. And I hate to say it, but sometimes it shows. I mean, even I've been like, oh my gosh, wow, you know, my shit shows. And I'm humble enough to go, wow, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to come across that way. But I am very transparent. I have nothing to hide. I've never been pushy. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm not trying to take advantage of anybody or anything. In fact, I'm the first person to promote my friends and family as much as I can, but there's also the element of having been in social media where I've noticed people who wanted me to just promote them and they never actually reciprocated. And that was hurtful. And that's just part of social media. It's an irony, isn't it? Like somebody thinks you have a huge following. They assume you're making money and you're monetizing. Maybe you're not, because I'm not. I don't make any money off of this. This is who I am. I share because I hope that my message, what I channel, will help serve someone in their life. I don't profit on YouTube. If we were to be honest about what transpired 2 years ago, I had an appendectomy. I started a group in 2017 with the partner, my ex-partner, Ridiculously Authentic. We built, both of us, not just one. It wasn't one-sided. I poured my blood, sweat, and tears into creating the brand, creating and populating it with my previous YouTube, my Facebook account that got disabled that I had had since 2007, when you had to be invited. It got disabled and deleted 2 years ago. And that had my history in my life. And you know, I had to come to terms with that, and I'm good with that. You know, sometimes you lose shit. It's okay. You build back better. Sorry, I couldn't help it. You build back. You come back stronger than ever. Because the truth is, it's just stuff. And in my life, I've lost a lot and gained a lot. And that when you lose it all, something always replaces the empty spaces, the voids. But when you're trying to fill your voids, trying to fill your cup with a whole bunch of random, like, I just need something in it, out of desperation, then you create your own drama and your trauma. Instead of facing, why is there a void, or what is it that I feel empty? This is what loneliness is really about. Why do I feel alone? Why do I feel empty? Why do I feel, you know, whatever I feel? That's a serious, true, let's look within and see what's really surfacing. What is coming to surface for healing? To confront. Because anything you feel, your senses, that's how you take in information, is also how you feel. It's your signal. Something doesn't feel right. This is your inner guidance system. This is your truth indicator, people. If something feels itchy, bitchy, doesn't feel good, it's your truth indicator. You know, I knew something. I felt something in my stomach. Something, you know, wasn't right. And why don't we listen to that more often? Why do we always go up here instead of drop here? That's why we feel so lonely, because we're so much up in here. We don't realize there's so much more in here. Even for myself saying that. I'm good with who I am. I know my heart. I know my truth. I don't have to defend myself. I don't have to go out and declare to the world what transpired 2 years ago. Just to complete that story, though, I believed in what we were building, but in the relationship, it was very toxic. And he proceeded to take everything that was monetizable after I was paying for everything. And he took it with him because that was all he had. Because I was paying for the home and the place that he was residing. Even the dog wanted to stay with me. He looked at him like, hey, I got it good here. I ain't going anywhere. So anybody who thinks I'm monetizing off of anything that resulted from that relationship, actually, I got the dog and I still have my home, which I am the sole owner of, because I made good choices in my life. Nobody gave me this home. This is me. This is my life, and I worked hard to get to where I'm at. And sometimes I do. I've got struggles. I've got my own personal stuff going on. But when he left, I had to also deal with the loss that he took what we had built and proceeded to tell me it was his, that he did all the work. And I was like, okay. But in my heart, and I have a lot of compassion because I didn't talk and air out my dirty laundry about this. The truth is, it was a very toxic relationship. And anytime that I didn't agree with him on something, anytime I didn't do what he wanted me to do, because he wanted to control everything, he would throw a huge argument. It would ensue for hours. He would threaten me. I'm going to video you. I'm going to out you. He was so abusive with his language. And he actually got physically abusive. I will say that. That is why, at the end, I said, you need to leave. And I called in for backup. And the reason I had to call him for backup was because I wasn't going to tolerate more of him arguing, threatening, because I knew his game, and everything he said would be words twisted around on me, telling me I was crazy and that he was trying to provoke a fight with me so he could vilify me and justify his behavior. When I had my appendectomy, I was very sensitive, and he disliked whenever I'd ask him to be silent. He disliked any request made of him. He saw it as a threat toward him. That anytime I wanted to be creative, he would freak out and flip out that it wasn't what he wanted. And he started withdrawing, and he would withhold. He wouldn't help me. He wouldn't promote me. He would actually take me out of our own group of 50,000 people. He would delete me out of the group, take away my admin privileges. He would block me. And then he'd go in there and just talk like he was a victim. And he really got mad when I said, oh, you're acting like a victim now. But he created the situation. So when people are in their drama and their trauma, and that's what they feed off of, and you don't give that back, it really pisses them off. And so in the case of the group and the YouTube channel, because this is my YouTube channel, I'm having to start all over again. He took everything. You go over to Ridiculously Raw Authentic, I think we had 2,500 followers on it, and all the content majority of it is mine, is my videos, and I'm okay with that. Same thing on our page. I have the page. That's the one thing I had admin rights to, because his original Facebook group, Facebook account got disabled and deleted before mine did. And then mine did. But I was able to, because I'm smart. I'm an IT person here. He tried to act like I didn't know what I was doing, but it was just that he just found me as a threat because I did know. And I was able to get the Facebook page. But, you know, interestingly enough, with the group, I could have taken that group if I wanted. I could have. And then I said, you know what? In the end, it means more to him because that's all he's got. Can you believe that? When someone is holding on so much to technology, and the people who wanted to stay and stick around for that, those are the same energies, the same drama and the trauma that people feed off of. I don't feel alone from that at all. Because that is a lonely cycle. People feeding off of each other's drama and trauma. And I'm sorry for that. Because why do people stick around to watch someone wallow or to really feed off of someone else's life? Especially when they're playing a role, because I can tell you from the backside, oh yeah, when things get a certain way, he had all these things he said he was going to do. He never once came to one of my yoga classes. He never once sat down. He tried to meditate with me once. He couldn't sit still. That's a story I never talked about. I said, come sit with me and do this easy meditation. It was too much for him. He loved it when I stretched him out. He loved certain things that I did. And he especially loved my food, because that's how I give love, is me preparing food. That's something that comes from my heart. So he had beautiful raw vegan meals. And there was a certain point, though, where his addiction kicked in, and all of a sudden he was on the yummy nastiness train. And he acted like, oh, I need to do this to get more views. I need to get, to bring in more people from other groups. No, actually, that was just him justifying and validating his own addictive behaviors. A lot of what ensued and what you witnessed was addiction. Addiction at its finest. And I couldn't stop it, because you can't stop an addict. And that was the experience that I went through. And then when my mother passed away, and there was other stuff like his car getting repossessed and him acting like it was my fault. And I'm like, you brought that drama here. Little stupid stuff. But I let him go with the group because I realized that's all he had. So and I've had to sit with this, because it's been 2 years of me having to try to wash off that old energy. That's not who I am. That's not it. Yes, I've had to deal with a little bit of, resentment and frustration. I'm sharing that with you now. But I honestly couldn't even maintain that as a friendship, because it was a using and abusing relationship. Even for the time that I tried, here, could you give me a ride? And then I say something and he'd start to flip out on me. I mean, if it wasn't for me, he wouldn't even be getting his VA disability, which he proceeded to pick on me when he lived with me, like I didn't deserve mine. I spent over 10 years in the Air Force fighting for my disability, and he's over here with only, 4 years in, whatever, and he's telling me I don't deserve what I get. And it's like, dude, you got PTSD, you need to go. So that was just some of what I experienced. And God bless him, he's making more money than I am now. And you know what? I'm okay with that, because God takes care of me. I know I'm taken care of. Source always provides. And I'm at a major life change crossroads of my life right now, trying to decide how to proceed forward. What do I want? I know in my heart and soul what I'm here to do is to serve. I always have been. That's who I am. I want to see the world a happier place, a better place, where people take care of one another and they're not airing each other's dirty laundry and you did this to me and you made me feel this way. It's like, no, you know what? We can communicate effectively, face to face. I'm not here to shut anybody down, and I'm not here to turn around and call anybody out. I experience certain things, and maybe sometimes, if you know me personally, I'm rather gentle in my approach compared to how I used to be. When I was younger, I had to learn. There have been times I've been very prickly, fiery, Leo, call shit out, because that's how I was. I'm a lot more, and I'm always direct, because I don't believe in candy coating. I don't believe in beating around the bush. To me, it's like you do yourself a disservice trying to sugarcoat something, or thinking that, somebody has to be approached a certain way. The truth is, if a person cannot handle the truth, that's not about you. You can only do the best you can do and be the best you can be, you. I don't believe that anybody inherently does anything to anybody. But when we go into stress, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, we tend to conjure up old patterns and behaviors, old coping mechanisms. And one of the things I wanted to discuss on here is, don't be who you hate. Don't become the person that was so hurtful to you that you become that hurtful person. Some of us, and I'm not speaking for my parents really were pretty lenient. I'm very blessed for that. But some people had parents that were just very much like, you have to do this because I said so. And that's end of story, no discussion. That is not a behavior that any adult deserves. It is not a child rearing behavior I would ever condone. And here's why. Because then you teach a child that authority has the last say that the child can't even question. If the child can't ask you a question, you're teaching that child never to question authority. You're teaching that child their questions, their concerns don't matter, or they're invalidated. And that's a cycle that's been perpetuated in this culture, in this society, in this world. Everybody's voice matters. If something concerns you because you feel it, because that's your truth indicator, you should be allowed to speak it. Because if you're not allowed to speak, then someone's trying to control, suppress, or oppress you. And then when that happens enough to a person, that's what causes so much heart pain. And then it's like when you become an adult, you're trying to unpack that pain. And it's essentially, why does a bully become a bully? Because they were bullied. You teach bad behavior that gets translated into the adult. And as adults, we come into, I never wanted to be like so-and-so. I never wanted to be like my mother. I never wanted to be like my dad. And then guess what? How many parents out there turn out just the way they didn't like their parents were? Because they never dealt with the pain within them. And that which perpetuates itself, that pain that you hold on to, translates, comes up into the person you hated, that you disliked. And you can point fingers all around you, but that's inside. And if you want to heal it on the outside, you have to heal it on the inside. You may see hate all around you because there's so much hate for yourself within. That's how the world shows up to us, as we are. If you have, oh wow, I got rats in my ceiling, I'm just saying. I've already thrown 4 out in the trash because of my electrocutor. Ganesha rides on the back of rats. I'm just going to say, Ganesha's working some big obstacles right now for this new moon. But my life experience has been this. I'm a very strong person. I'm very strong-willed. But I have purpose, and I have a reason behind why I am the way I am and why I stand for what I stand for. I had a very strong mother, and my dad's strong too. He's softer in a lot of ways. But I had a strong foundation that I feel raised me into the person I am today. And the experiences that I had. I met up with so much adversity. Authority figures trying to constantly keep me under their watch, under their thumb. Because it was a power trip, a power grab, this control struggle, which personally, I can see you as my equal. But if you're trying to get like a whip on me, no, I'm not having that. I will stand my ground. And I don't believe anybody deserves that. Nobody is above another. If you can't do one-on-one with a person, there is something wrong with you. Nobody's a slave to anybody else. We are all equals. Oneness is about recognize the other is you. If you can't recognize God in all, you can't see God in all. Recognizing the other is you is also recognizing God in all, is you in all. And that what shows up to you is you always. If something feels threatening, off-putting, challenging, it's all in you. It's not outside of you. I know this for me, and I can only speak from my experience. Again, that's all I'll ever share. What channels through me? is intuitive knowing, not amassed vast knowledge and books. Because a lot of times people want to throw up a degree or a certification or, I have all these letters after my name. But what does the heart say? Does the heart speak to you heart to heart? Can they drop out of their head? Can they really be on your level? Because right now, what the world needs more than anything isn't a dictator, an authoritarian, a teacher, a guardian, a guru. They need a person, human to human, mano a mano, parliamo insieme, speaking together, heart to heart. People are craving deep, real, authentic connection, support. I see you. I hear you. I feel you. I know you because my heart knows you, because you are me, and I've been there too. If you can't recognize that the bleeding hearts right now are really really people, the faces of you. Everything you desire is in the other, and they're in you. Single or married, or you got people or not. Right now, it's so much isolation, disconnect, distance. It's like, are you kidding? I think a lot of us are over it. We just want people in our lives who are supportive, who are loving, compassionate, who genuinely care about our best interest. And we want to give that too. It's in our nature to nurture. It truly is. We want to feel supported and be able to support. Respecting one another, knowing that, you're not going through anything more or less than I am. It's just a different experience. Maybe you're going through nothing. Maybe you're going through something. Maybe I'm going through nothing. Maybe I'm going through something. But don't assume and project your shit upon another person either. You have to keep that neutrality, that knowing that you just never know. And to assume is to make an ass out of you and me. I'm just saying, because that's a real thing. I've been made an ass out of. I don't have a problem with that. I'm human. And I'll own it. I will growl like a lion, because that's sometimes how I get. And I will purr like a pussycat later too. Like, I'm sorry. I'm humble enough to say I'm sorry when I'm sorry. I have been known to be the first one to apologize. I have been known to turn around and try to be the peacekeeper. Because I have a Libra rising. I'm all about, this is about humanity, and I believe in humans. That my purpose here is to show you that life is not as challenging as your mind is trying to play out a story. To lead by examples, to tell you, if I'm okay, I have my days, you can be okay and have your days. That whatever you feel is valid, and it's a truth serum, it's a medicine, that we're always unlocking some code to our true authenticity, to the root of who we are, not just this human, but the essence of our soul. I mean, really, you got to break a heart to open it up. Why do you want to protect something? Don't you want to live out loud, fearlessly, reckless abandon, wild and free, unrestricted? The more you put constrictions and limitations and, you have to behave or be a certain way, the more you suffocate your soul and the expression of others. And that's already where we're at in the world right now. Too many people feel something's not right, feels heavy on their hearts, feels oppressive, restrictive. We all want to break our arms open and just fly freely, because that's in our nature. It's in our nature to be creative, to be expansive, to grow. And when we come together, we create ideas, we come up with solutions. But if we're all sitting around commiserating, oh, this is wrong, this is right, blah, 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 it's all noise unless you're doing and being better. I mean, we all have had challenges, but choose your words wisely. When you tell your story, be careful about the words you use to cast the spell, to continue to perpetuate and keep you entrained and locked into something that maybe you never wanted to be a part of. But those are the words we were taught. And the spell that's been cast across humanity has been to keep it oppressed, to keep it engaged in the hamster wheel, to continually be on your devices with all your vices. The more addicted you are to something, the more dependent you are to it, the less reliant and able to go within, because when you don't go within, you go without. This is the theme of November. Go back to your roots. Remember what it was like to be a child. Remember climbing trees and building tree houses. That's what I do. Is I remember my childhood was rather free and roaming in the countryside in Maine. My connection to Source and God was just in nature. And I got in trouble for asking questions in religious class. Why does it say that God said, don't worship me in four walls? Don't question authority, I was told. I question it all, and that won't stop. If you can't ask questions, that's not freedom. That's constriction. We're all adults now. We can be entrusted to our own choices. And so I know it's difficult and challenging for some people in your minds to allow other adults to make choices for themselves. But don't become the person that you dislike telling you what to do. Because when you think you know better for someone else, you're probably not listening to what you need to be doing better for yourself. What you project is what you need to reflect upon in you. To assume something of another is to take the responsibility off of yourself. When in reality, there's something there to unpack, and there always is. When we think we know, there's always more to grow. This has been my life lesson, and I am completely fine with unpacking. I have peeled off more layers, and there's always more to go. I'm always humbled to recognize that to be a leader takes and brings upon it great responsibility. It takes extreme humility too, to also own every role, every part you've ever played in your life. That I have made mistakes, and I'm okay with that. And I don't need anybody else to hold it over my head. And when someone turns something around on you, that's not about you, that's about them. That's out of fear. If anybody ever throws something at you, attacking your character, your person, that's out of fear. And just know that. Have compassion for the fear, because what that means is they're not able to look within when they're throwing things out. So that's kind of funny about don't throw the baby out with the bath water, right? Don't throw the baby out with the bath water. It's like when people feel, or like the animal, that feels like it's backed up into a corner. It just starts going, freaking out, tantrum, right? Starts throwing all sorts of stuff out. It's like Tourette's. Because it doesn't know how to contain its own nervous system and calm itself and claim the inner authority that's saying, let's just sit with this for a moment. What's really going on here? What is the real threat? What is the real fear that is coming up within me? What is the real tragedy that I'm unwilling to see? Because anytime we attack another in defense of ourselves, that's not authenticity. That's not in alignment with integrity. I know for myself, if I do that, it's coming from a place of fear. And I dislike ever calling someone out as a name. I think that's wrong. I don't like it done to me. It's the do unto others as you would want done unto you. I would never want to harm a person using words. But if I share how I feel about something, I would like to think that my actual feelings count for something. And that just because you're uncomfortable with how I feel doesn't make it any less valid. So if I'm to say I was really hurt by something someone said, that takes courage and vulnerability to admit. That I care enough to say something, number two. And number three, I'm always willing to hear the other side, but not when it's in a place of, I just don't want to hear it. So I've had a lot of, over this past year, I've had a lot of people drop out of my personal life. Some showing their true characters of how they really only just saw me as somebody they like to go to and would say, yeah, well, if you ever need to talk here, I'm always here, which they're not. It was just lip service, I'm sorry to say. And I'm okay with that. I'm good with that because I had to set, and I don't like the word boundary, set a standard. Boundaries cage you in, and I'm no animal. Oh, here comes Buddy because there was a noise outside. Boundaries are a protective mechanism of an animal. To me, standards are about standards, standing in your knowing of yourself. This is why I'm so picky about words, and my mother also was very much a wordsmith, and she was a truth seeker. So to say a boundary to me is off-putting, but essentially you set a standard with somebody and you just stay to it. So it's unfortunate I lost a few people out of my life because of the way they behaved toward me, and I was always the giver, and I don't have a problem with that. I am who I am. I'm not going to stop being the person I am. Sometimes it feels lonely in my circle, like I'm walking a path alone. I admit that my circle got smaller. That I still love those people. That doesn't mean I think any less of them. That I wish them well and I hope they're happy. I don't judge them, even though I felt judged as well. We do compare ourselves, and there is a level of discernment that we have to exercise to recognize whether a person deserves to be a part of our lives or not. If they don't align with your integrity, why are you keeping them around? Why are you allowing them energy and space in your life? They can always stay in your heart. There's nothing wrong with that. But if they are taking more than they're giving, then that's something you have to sit with. And I've had to do that a lot over this past year. And I'm very loving, but I need to have people in my life that are on the up and up and can have the difficult, tough relationship conversations that don't just end because the other person doesn't want to talk about it. Those are not authentic relationships in my eyes. My relationships are, we can have a conversation no matter how hard it is, and I might not want to hear it, and the other person might not want to hear it, but I'm still okay with having the conversation. That if I hurt your feelings, I'm humble enough to say, I'm sorry. But if my feelings were hurt, I need to feel acknowledged and recognized just as equally. And I think that this is a theme in the collective too, to where a lot of people have probably been going through the same thing I've been going through, where your circle seems to get a little smaller and you feel lonely because you realize, wow, I thought more highly of that person than they thought of me. You held them at a certain regard and they apparently didn't hold you on the same level. Or they secretly, they claim to appreciate and to respect you, but in reality, they were comparing themselves and saw you as a threat because of some inner whatever. And we all have that. We all have haters and lovers and whatever. Because people will do that and they won't claim it for themselves, whatever it is. And I personally am not one to idolize or to worship any gurus. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I follow a lot of people. But the biggest teller and seeker I have is within me. If I hear something I love to listen to, I'll give you some people that I like to listen to. I love Teal Swan because to me she's like a soul sister, and I can feel that anytime I listen to something she says, I get a glimpse into myself that I'm like, connect the dots. Matt Kahn, he speaks on that same level as well. Bob Proctor, what a beautiful man. Love him. I like Dan Pena too. If you haven't listened to him, he's just like, tell it like it is, F-bombing left and right. I like to listen to everybody and every little aspect and nuance, and I will go down different rabbit holes because I'm an open-minded person, willing to have a listen to a certain degree, and if something doesn't resonate, okay, I turn away. But I'm open and minded enough to hear different sides and perspectives because I know my side isn't always the only way to see it. And I really love when someone has a different way of looking at things because it opens my mind up more to creativity because it challenges my mind. And I love having dialogues where people can really just bounce ideas off of each other. Like we can just be like, oh my gosh. So my mind can go on a tailspin. And I was having a conversation with someone earlier today and I said, you know, I could go down that rabbit hole. I can think the worst case scenario of what could happen in the world. And being of an IT background, I know if all of this electricity went out, here's a bonus, people. I bet you didn't think about this. People are going to turn around and say, well, I wouldn't have access to my money because the banks, everything be shut down. But you ever stop to think your debt wouldn't be there either? So if you have debt, if you're one of those people out there that carries debt, you might not have any money, but you don't have any debt either. Did you think about that? See, for every positive, there's a negative, and every negative, there's a positive. But that's how you got to retrain in your own mind, your own brain. You got to retrain your brain from thinking always the most negative Nancy type scenarios. Because I see the blessing that if the grid were to be knocked out, people would actually get desperate. I know that. But then those of us who've been doing this work for a very long time would go, wow, you know what? I know I'm going to be okay. And those of us who've been doing this for a while, we're like, okay, I got 2 legs, I can walk. I'm not that far from a store if I needed to buy something, or if okay, that's the other thing. What stores would be open? Yeah, we have to think about that. What places will we be able to get groceries? Your local farmers? Who's got a yard? I got a large yard over here. Anybody want to come grow on my yard? I'm open to that. You got to start thinking outside the box. Who's in your tribe? Who is willing to work with you? Who's on your level? Not, hey, what do you got that I don't have? Because that's survival. I want thrival in my life. I want people on the up and up. Hey, this is what I got to offer. What do you have to also receive in return? That's why it's so important. My dad was calling the other day. I'm going to share because my dad, he's so funny. I love my dad. My dad's actually one of the best teachers. He calls up to me and complains about his Dunkin' Donuts coffee. My sister got him a special croissant. She tried to get him to go to this restaurant on his way back from New York. And he said it was too far out of my way. I didn't have time for it. And I'm on the phone with him and I said, okay. So he's complaining about the Dunkin' Donuts. And I said, well, you got to remember, you get what you pay for. Because he's complaining about the employee. I said, well, let's stop and think about this. The employee doesn't have any vested care, because when you have a toxic work culture, it starts at the top. If your leadership is toxic, it trickles down. Your employees don't feel valued. What do you think you're getting for a product on the tail end of that? If you're paying pennies for a coffee, I said, that's why I don't frequent places like Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts and those things. I don't pay into those big conglomerates. I shop local. I go where I'm treated best and I pay for the best. And I know that in itself reinforces good behavior because I'm returning the favor. It's a mutual receptivity. That's what life is about. This is what humanity needs to return to. That we're giving to receive and not just giving to get. And there's a difference in that receptivity of, I know what I'm giving is as equally valuable as what I'm receiving. And there's a beautiful synchronicity and symbiotic relationship there, that you know that you're fostering the environment, that loving family tribe that you're looking for. So as he complained about it, I was like, so this was a lesson, right? You could have taken a little bit of time and gone out of your way and had a beautiful meal, but you chose this other alternative. And in the future, maybe in the future, you will choose to enjoy that moment off to the side, even if it's a little bit out of your way, so you didn't waste all that time, plus the energy you're here explaining, and you had to throw the coffee out because it was so nasty. Because essentially, you have to remember, a toxic work environment, it's a trickle-down effect. When leadership is toxic, it is felt all the way down. When the employees don't feel valued, it shows. The product, the end result that you think you're paying some sort of good money, that's not. They don't feel valued, and then you're complaining about a product that wasn't very good. So we create these cycles, and you can continue to live that same cycle over and over again. Or you can choose to end the cycle, stop complaining, find the solution, and focus and recognize your own value. Because that's the end result and story in that. Because I love my dad, but sometimes he doesn't value himself enough to pay for a good coffee. He just goes to the cheaper option. And I believe in value yourself first. Go where you're treated best. Treat yourself well, and everybody else will follow. And if you're feeling lonely, there are lots of us out here who have been walking the path for a very long time, wondering, when will our tribe connect, right? Community, growth, expansion, connection, like true heart to heart. Maybe that's what I'm meant to do. Maybe I'm meant to start a new community. And I have been sitting with that as well, is recognizing maybe that's my purpose. And I do believe that is part of it, because I'm trying to sit with source to stream through me. How do I do this? I can't do it alone. I don't intend to do it alone. I know it takes a village. I know it takes people who are truly aligned in integrity and will show up and follow through. And I've had a lot of people, like I said, in this past year that just showed me they couldn't follow through, and I was okay with that. It hurt my heart. It did. And I still love them. I'm not going to judge them, because they're just not ready or able to do what I need in my life. But I know those who do, and I appreciate each and every one of you who do show up to me. So if you are in my life, I love you. I thank you dearly, because even if you're watching this video, it shows you care enough to listen, and that you are valuable and worthy, each and every one of you. That I show up to remind you of that. Because I do believe sometimes we forget. I do. I take long walks with Buddy this week, because that, to me, I need to move my body. That's how I deal with anxiety, stress. This past week, I got thrown for a loop. I'm just going to share this much. I am a quick resolution type person. I don't like being silenced, shut down, or left hanging. So if at any time somebody they silence me, they put me on mute, they don't respond to me when something is important, to me that hurts. And it creates a stress that never existed in my life. And I'm like, wow, this past week really kind of went, wow, that's fucked up. That's my inner child going, wow, that's really fucked up. What did I do to deserve that? To be silenced, to be told, end of story, shut down. What did I do to deserve that? Did I deserve that? Because I know my feeling, my inner child was going, wow, that hurts. That feels like a shutdown. Like you're not worthy, that you're being alienated and isolated and excluded from playing. You're not liked because you're not a certain way. I was like, shit, okay. Been there, done that. Not the first time. But yeah, if you're in my life, please just come straight up at me and just let's resolve shit. I don't like stuff unsettled. I'm not like that. Um, Hopefully one of my other girlfriends will reach out because something that I said that she didn't want to deal with. And I get it, and it's okay. I had made good with it. It was something in my very far past, and it took me a lot to let that person back in my life because of where I was at back then. And I'm a pretty tolerant person in my life. If you're in my life, it's because I love you. If you're not, it's because you really fucked up. That's a flat out truth. So yeah, it can be a little lonely, a little bit of a life of solitude sometimes. When you hold a high standard and other people are unwilling to meet you or to find compromise of some nature, yeah, it can really suck. But also, having grown up, my mom was the one person who knew my heart the best. And we had challenges over the years when I was younger. And I know that because she had a very strong-willed child who came in with power in this life. Losing my mom was the hardest thing in my life. And that's why these past few years have been the hardest. Because she's the one I would console with, and she's the one I could talk to. I can handle being single. That's no big deal. But those times you want to pick up the phone and call your mom, just because she'd listen. And sometimes that's all we all need, isn't it? Someone just to listen. Which is why I'm always here to listen. And why sometimes it feels like it's taken for granted and not appreciated as much. Sometimes you give of yourself freely and people don't appreciate it. And that when you need it reciprocated and it isn't, that's when it's most harmful and can be hurtful, and it can be destructive in relationships. So anyone out there, if you don't have that receptivity in a relationship, recognize that, because that's a huge sign. And don't abuse yourself and stay in a relationship that isn't receptive, because that's self-harm in its own way. Always seek out somebody who can equally hold you and listen to you as much as you can hold them. That is like serious gold. That's sacred. That is very sacred. Without judgment, without projecting, just listening. And I'm very blessed. I do have those people in my life. I mean, I miss my mom the most because she understands my past. She knows what I've been through. It's also why, as a veteran, I'm very grateful for some of the VA programs that they have. Over the past year and a half, I've been very fortunate to have some programs where I've been able to be part of groups of veterans and being able to share ourselves and reminding me, like, wow, I really miss that. Other veteran women who understand what that's like, what it was like to serve. It's a whole nother world. It really is. There's a lot of things about me that a lot of people don't know, because I don't share my personal stuff. Not the deepest stuff, but that's coming out. That will come out in a book. I'm more and more realizing that this time to go within is also to really reveal a whole lot of my past and truth. Yeah. So thank you for listening and watching. And just remember, the real thing that came on this video, we're returning to our roots. Remember who you were when you were a child. You're not alone. I think a lot of us, we grew up feeling very much different than the crowds of people. Like, let's say, for example, going to school. I was involved in everything. I wanted to be active. I was in cross country and track and field, and I was a cheerleader, and I wanted to play soccer and softball. I wanted to do it all, drama club and all that, because I wanted to be included. I don't see anybody ever being different than that. Even the ones who wanted to be excluded wanted to be included in something, if you really go to the psychology of it all these cliques. I didn't belong to any one clique. I could hang out with everybody. That was the funny part about me, is I never felt like I belonged to any one clique. I could have parties at my house and everybody would show up, and it was so funny because I remember my mom would be at the parties too, by the way. They'd all show up, and you'd have the jocks over here and the preps over there, and you'd have the loadies and this and the that, and this one talking about that one. I was like, I got along with all of them because I never really identified with any one of them. Because to me, we're human, and I am all for human. And I never wanted to be that person. I'm sure I did when I was younger, that bullied or was nasty to another. I know I did. I still remember what I felt like thinking about it, because it didn't ring true for my body. That it wasn't who I was. That I wanted everybody to feel inclusive. I don't want to ever be the person that's a hateful person. So I heal the hate within me, so I'm not that person. Everything starts within. If you can heal the pain within you, you won't be projecting it out. Confront and heal, console the inner child that was talked down to, that didn't feel worthy, so that you don't become the same oppressor of the same person that did it to you. That's how karma and legacies are perpetuated, because we don't recognize we need to heal the cycle. The trauma that's in you has to end with you. Otherwise, you share it and continue it. Again, you point a finger, you got 3 back at you. That's a loaded gun. Be careful. You pull that trigger, it ricochets back at you. And it's only you left with a loaded smoking gun. And the others, we say a lot of things. We're human. We can't take everything back. We can't take back the pain we inflict on someone. So just be more conscious of how you behave and how you speak, or try not to react. Notice, okay, I'm getting heated here. Take a deep breath, reflect, meditate, count to 10. How many times have you heard that? Simple breathing techniques. Recognize the other person as you. Remember to see God in all. That's you too. Because if you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all. And recognizing the other as you is what it's all about. Life is about relationship. Allowing yourself to be seen. You're not putting yourself out there. You're not sharing and expressing yourself. It takes a lot of courage to get on a video. It takes a lot of courage to step outside the house. I understand that. I may look easy to me because that's what I do. There are times I'm still sitting here going, I'm gonna go live. There's a hesitation. Am I gonna say everything I need to be, is it gonna come out right? Am I, tongue-tied? Make the first step. That's what it's about. You took one foot in front of the other, step by step. That's momentum. Progress, not perfection. Hey, I'm a recovering perfectionist. Trust me, I know. I'm having to start all over in my life in a lot of different ways. I don't know what's going to unfold, but I know I don't want it to be part of something that it was, because new isn't going to look the same as the old. That's the whole point. Growth comes outside of your comfort zone. You have to get a little dirty, you have to feel a little messy, and you have to feel uncomfortable. But again, it's about progress, not perfection, baby. So be willing to put yourself out there. And when your neighbors are doing the lawn and there's all sorts of noise going around, it's okay. I'm sure somebody gets a message out of this anyway. That's my intention. That's my perfect purpose. That's who I am. And I just wanted you to know you're not alone. Life is messy. Allow yourself to get dirty. Live your life fearlessly and reckless abandon. Be wild, be free. Scream from the trees. Hey, I'm a tree climber. I was in the Air Force. I soar. That's one of my things. And my mom was a phoenix. Phoenix rising. And she's rising through me. And that's the legacy I care to carry forth. We all have a voice. We all are worthy. And if you need a friend, just reach out. We all need human connection. Again, that's why we're here. So much love to you. Many blessings from my heart to yours. Have a really beautiful new moon and set your intention. Set really powerful, strong intentions to be the best you can be.